suddenly you become more valuable to them. Is what I'm getting to. You know, it's like,
some people, yes, I believe that.
Yeah, you know.
Here's something really funny. There's this. I live in a kind of a small, a nice little community, and they're all kind of small houses, not tiny houses, but small houses. And a lot of people have dogs, and a lot of people have seen me over the last year bringing my border collie along, because he was about 6 months old when I got here. So, you know, he was wanting to jump on everybody and all that stuff. And now, you know, he's a totally different dog, you know, and he's very obedient with me and all that. And I noticed there was a guy who had a dog, and he was always having trouble with his dog every time Joey, my dog, and I would walk by. And this morning, I'm playing with my dog on the grass, and he walks by, and he stops, and he's training his dog. He's got him heeling with him. He's got him sitting, and you know, I looked at him and said, "Hey, really, that's really good, man." And you know, what was kind of funny is because he lives some houses down, right? But he had to come right in front of my house.
Yeah.
To show me what he was doing. I think a lot of people know some of my past and what I've done, and he was just kind of showing off, and I thought, yeah, you're doing a really good job, you know, better than most of the people here. So I gave him a lot of praise and said, hey, you're doing really good, man, thanks.
So you're well, see, here's the thing. You should be. That's what I'm telling you. You should be giving classes, or you should be instructing people, or a coach. You know, I'd see more as a coach. You know, coach as a personal coach. It's just like people playing their golf game or their tennis game. You know, they want some pointers. That's what I would say. That's my feeling, because I, you know, don't.
If somebody asked me, if somebody came up to me here in the neighborhood and said, hey, you know, blah, 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 I definitely say, well, here's what you should do. This is what I would do.
I'd rather work with people who want specific, like working dogs or whatever, you know, the specific task. And I'd rather train the dog than the people. Really, because like you're saying, because you have to go over, well, why, it's like, you know, same thing, like, why isn't my guitar still in tune? You know, I mean, it's the same, you know, it's the same things like the dog, or why am I out of shape? I trained once, you know, I went
to the gym one time on the way to McDonald's.
Yeah. You know, it's like, you know, the maintenance is the big secret. You got to keep doing it.
You know, when you say that about we're talking about the gym thing. And it would drive me nuts, because I would get on the treadmill, or usually the treadmill, but maybe an elliptical machine or a bike. But and there would be a lady on one side and a lady on the other side of me, and they're having a conversation. And I'm trying to listen to music, and I'm working out hard, you know. Yeah. And I've always wanted to say, you know, why you look the way you do is because you're talking while you're working out. If you work out so you can't talk, then you're working out, you know, and it would just drive me nuts.
What it reveals is that, you know, you got a personality where you're trying to accomplish something. You're not trying to just show up, you know. You're not, oh, hey, well, you know, it's like remember those old Bugs Bunny commercials where they'd have the coyote or the wolf and the sheepdog, and they would Ralph, hey, okay, you know, they're punching it out. It's like, that's it for today, you know what I mean? And like, see you tomorrow.
But a lot of these people, it seems like it's they go to the gym and get on a treadmill for 20 minutes and talk, and okay, now I can go to McDonald's because I went to the gym, you know. And it's like, have you looked in the mirror? Do you see any changes? Are you getting better? You're losing weight? Then you're doing something wrong.
Well, you know, as they say, you can't really out-train a bad diet, you know. I mean, you got to be young and growing, because you're going to be because you're in a calorie deficit. But once you get past that, then
you get older. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, your metabolism slows down, and the recovery and the recovery time is just a lot more. So
yeah, it's really hard to work out when you're taking a nap. So it's
Are you cutting into cutting into your nap time? Is it?
Well, yeah. I have my gym right here. I'm in my little gym right here. And
okay.
Either the workouts cut into my nap time, or they cut into my drink time. So.
Well, this is I have a 24-hour gym, which is good because I like to go when there's like you. I like to try to avoid the people who are not trying to do stuff, so I tend to go late at night so that I don't run into a bunch of people who are just.
I'm a morning person, man.
Yeah,
I got to work out in the mornings.
Really, I'm not.
It's after 4 o'clock, and it's and it ain't happening today.
Well, that's pretty wild. That's pretty wild.
I've always been a morning person.
Really? Oh. I've worked every schedule in the world, as you know, because if you were in the Army, you had to do whatever schedule that might be. But movies, you got to shoot late at night. I mean, you got to be shooting late at night.
Yeah. Well, that's a different story, especially especially if you're doing stunt work where you're fighting, or you're throwing each other around, or you're getting shot and falling down and stuff. I mean, that's fun. The gym used to be fun for me up until my 50s, I think up until my 60s. And then, as you get into your 70s, arthritis and all kinds of things. And like, I've got a lot of arthritis now, and working out is very painful. I'm not going to stop doing it. I'm going to keep doing it. But it ain't fun like it used to be. Now it's a chore. Okay, get your ass in there and pick up something heavy, speaking of that, I've taken a lot of abuse over the years as far as the arthritis. I have both hips are resurfaced. One of my shoulders is replaced, and the other one needs to be replaced, and I have cartilage problems. So from just years of I was a professional athlete, so that did it, and the direct trauma did it, and there's nothing like bone on bone pain. I mean, both shoulders of mine are both on bone.
My range of motion. This one is I had this replaced.
Here's something funny. This is Friday, right?
Yeah.
Now, if we were younger, we'd be talking about, hey, I just polished my car, man. I got a date tonight. We're going to, but instead, we're talking about bone on bone pain.
Well, as you used to call it, right? The walking wounded, right? I mean, that's exactly where we're at, and I mean, that's one of the things. Did you now that this limitation, of course, is something that you were actually helping Frank in out about, right? Because I mean, that was basically when he started losing mobility. Is what we're really getting to, because losing mobility sucks.
I don't know how old he was when we did Benji the Hunted, but he was about 350 pounds, and he was in his 70s, and this was all shot up in the mountains and the forest and stuff. So he knew right away he wouldn't be able to do a lot of the locations. I have a poem for him that he signed. He wrote this whole big long poem while they were working on Benji, and it's the coolest thing. And I'll have to send you the words because it's quite long. He signed it for me, and he said, "There's no way we could have done this movie without you." And that signed by Frank In. I mean, that's like Spielberg signing a thing saying I couldn't have done this without you. That's,
as we said before, a lot of people don't know anything about these guys, and they don't realize how how good they were is what I'm trying to get to. I mean, just how good they were, like on the spur of the moment. And he was also known as the cat trainer because Rhubarb, of course, and his cat named Rhubarb, for those people who don't know. And he was subcontracted to Disney a lot, which I didn't know for a long time. But he, you know, I mean, he was independent or whatever you want to call it, because there were in-house trainers at Disney, but he would be subcontracted to do the work in a lot of stuff that they did. So
yeah, he was really good. He didn't do that. His company didn't do a lot of bird stuff.
Yeah.
They did some ravens, so but they really didn't get into the citizen birds and the raptors like I was fortunate enough to do, because my uncle had them. So that was really cool. He was the best all around, and what a nice guy. What a sweetheart. Just, you know, I mean, he loved everybody. Nobody could do him wrong. He just loved everybody. You know, he always had his sailor hat on and, you know, looking like a captain. And you know, I mean, he'd walk into a place and boy, Frank is here. You know, it was really cool.
Yeah, he helped a lot of people out. He helped. Well, he said one of his interviews that he was really happy with Carl Miller because he felt that, you know, Carl Miller was his real protege, and that Carl actually eclipsed him. That's what he said, because he said from the work in Babe. You remember that movie?
Yeah.
He said he did stuff in Babe that I couldn't do. That's what he said. You know, so I don't know if that's true, but I mean, he did that, and of course, you know Sharon Evans, and he launched her pretty much, way back.
I didn't know. I don't really know much about Sharon Evans.
Oh, really?
So I didn't know where she came from. Did she come from the Frank?
Yeah. She also worked with the Weather Waxes. That's a story for Robert to explain. She was on Little House on the Prairie until they killed her dog off, right?
That was a weird thing. I don't really know what happened with that, other than
that's what she told me. That's what she told me. I taught.
Well, the dog that she was working, Jack, for some reason, Michael decided to have it dead, basically.
Yeah.
Bring in a new dog. So they came to look at our dogs, and I showed them Boomer. This was before Boomer. His name was Johnny. So I showed him Johnny, but he was too close to looking like the dog that they had, so they didn't want to do that. And then Ray showed him the Border Collie, which I really wouldn't have shown him because it was a live show dog and not a movie dog.
Yeah.
Michael fell in love with it, Bandit and all that. So, I did the best I could trying to make it work. But I was, the first day I was on Little House, I was working my crow, and Sharon had taken over Jeffrey, the Border Collie, which became Bandit. And at right after that, I got a call saying, okay, you're working Bandit from now on the show. And okay. I had no idea what happened to Sharon. I didn't know, didn't care. It's not my job. I don't need to know all that. I had a job to do, and that's what I did. So I know Sharon has reached out to me a couple of times, but I kind of shy away from it because I don't want to get into anything. I don't know anything. I don't know why it all happened.
Yeah.
It was politics somehow.
I talked to her a year or so ago, and she just told me about because I didn't remember I didn't know that the dogs were that central to Little House on the Prairie. I mean, because I didn't anyway. But she was just saying that they wanted a rating spike, is what she said, and that she was told that they couldn't kill off any of the main characters because they were going to keep them around, so they decided to off the dog, so that's what she told me. But so I don't know.
A lot of people don't really know this, but when Little House on the Prairie was on the air and in the top 10 film studios were not shooting westerns anymore. They gave up on them. They said they were taboo, not doing them anymore. And yet here's this guy got a western in the top 10. What I thought was so cool about that show is you can watch any episodic television, especially detective movies or sitcom or whatever they are. It's always the same. Boom, 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 the end. Boom, 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 the end. Little House on the Prairie, however, kids are playing with matches, burn down a house, and kill somebody. And the very next episode that you get to see is all comedy, where they're playing. So you never really knew exactly what your show was going to be. With a cop show, you know exactly what it's going to be.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to shoot the bad guys and blah, 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 you know?
Yeah, the formula. Yeah, the formula. And
he was really, really good at that. And I think that's, and so many people that I have talked to, and I just got back from a Little House on the Prairie 50th anniversary thing, and the people that I talk to, they're younger people with little kids. They're raising their kids on Little House on the Prairie. They buy all the discs and they watch it on TV because it was such a wholesome show, and they want their kids growing up seeing this and not what's out there.
Yeah. I actually, for me, when I went to a school where the teacher read the books. We had this, we used to have the listening time or whatever for and she actually read the little. That's how I knew about it before the TV series came out. So because I've heard the the books, the Laura Ingalls books or whatever.
Oh, very good.
Yeah. So. Yeah, but I mean that was also the time of the Waltons, though, I think too, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The Waltons, which did really well. And there was who did the dog in that? There was a dog. I mean, it wasn't Central. It wasn't a Central.
I don't have a clue.
Because we're always trying to, because I've said this many times to Robert. I said I think that all the animal stuff peaked in the 70s. I think there were more animals being on all sorts of things, and the movie of the week, and whatever.
Well, we need another dog show.
Well, I say that all the time.
Boomer.
Yeah. Well, we need
another dog show.
We need a.
I don't know if the younger people are even care about it now.
Well, we need an adult thing because too many of the dog stuff is just for the kids. They think, we get the draw from the parents taking the kids, But we need something that's for the adults. That's what I think. An action drama is what I think would do well. And that's my feeling. And
plus, there's two different sides. I always like to bring up the boomer thing because it was just a fun thing. There's no taking down bad guys. Nobody's going to jail. Nobody's getting killed. Yeah. It's just a dog wanders in and out of lives and has fun and stuff like that. And it's kind of a no-brainer. You don't have to think about it. It's just watch and have fun. Yeah. And I think we need stuff like that nowadays on TV. But I honestly don't know if they'd have an audience big enough to watch it.
I mean, that's why John Wick. I was really pumped up when John Wick came out. I'm like, oh my God, we got dogs back in the the guy in Canada did the one with Halle Berry. They trained Halle Berry to be a handler, I guess, actually, because the dog.
I mean, that's as far as a movie dog trainer.
Yeah,
that's the best of the worlds. They give you 6 months to work with the actors.
They had 5 dogs. They had 5 dogs for that. 5 dogs for that because they felt it would be better if the dogs are taking direction commands from her as opposed to the trainer off.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And she did it, and I really like those. I really like the scenes in that. And they said that the dogs are so athletic that we just started creating scenes with them. Whatever. We're like, hey, can they jump up this? And they're like, yeah. So
that's what happens when the producers and directors love you and love the dogs. Honestly, You can bring a dog in there, and Joel Silverman, he talks about this all the time. But you bring a dog on the set, and he's on a show. Oh, okay, and it's scripted, and it's not in it very much. And then they see the dog working, and they see how it looks and all that, and pretty soon they start adding more and more stuff because the dog is so good. But they don't start off that way. Honestly, if you can get a show where you get 4, 5, 6 months of nothing, training the actors. Oh, you just, it's like, okay, you know what to do.
Yeah.
Go ahead and do it.
You're doing what you do with cops. They're handlers. They're not trainers. So, I mean, you teach them how to basically, like, okay, this is a semi. You got to learn how to drive a semi, right? You know what I mean? So, I mean, it's
but when you get to when you do the thing, say like that they did on Wick with Halle Berry. Halle Berry is actually seeing training, so she is learning training. She knows this is something you do, and there's something you don't do, and there's a lot. And you know as well as I do, just watching somebody work their dog, you're learning training. You're learning a lot about it just by watching them. For a month, that's a major deal, man.
If you're observant, you know what I mean. If you're observant, but no, she actually had time scheduled. I mean, because they were doing the gun training, and they were doing the. They were doing the fight choreography training, and then she also had the dog training too. I mean, that was set aside. The guy talks about that. The guy, Robert, knows the guy in Canada who he works with wolves a lot. He was the one. He's the one who provided for that one. The last one though was a different guy. That's where they have the single Malinois, different Malinois. That's a different trainer. That was a tactical trainer that did that work. But anyway, I really liked the two dogs. I was like, oh my God, we're going to get back to the Doberman gang. Getting all excited. And I'm like, oh, give us I mean, we're going off on whatever here, but it doesn't matter. What's your progression stages of training with your dog? What are your goals? And where are you at?
Well, right now, my dog has quite a bit on him that you need. And he does work away. I haven't been able to progress as far as I want on that because I don't have a second trainer.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Because I'd like to have somebody to have him work away too. I've taught him. He knows. He knows direction horizontally and vertically. I can tell him to go this way or that way or that way. As a matter of fact, I don't know if I said this the other day, but he runs around a tree. I've got this big tree, and I have him run around the tree, and when he goes around it, I throw either his rope or his ball or whatever, and he's got to go chase it. So he gets going around the tree, and it's always around the same way. So, and he's been doing it for, a year now. And the other day, I stopped him. He ran around the tree. I stopped him. I said, no, go on. And I talked him into going around the other way. I didn't show him. I didn't put a leash on him. I didn't show him around there. I just told him. And what I love about that so much is I can watch him. He has to stop, and he has to think, and he has to listen to me. And then the wheels have to turn in his head to figure it out. And I love watching that whole thing. And then he did it. And I said, very good, and paid him, and then I had him go around again. Very good. Then I had to go around the other way. And all that stuff is really good training because when, say, a director tells everybody, okay, this is what we're doing. The dog is coming in from left to right, putting his feet up on the back of the couch, jumping over, lying down, or whatever. You get to set, and you've trained that and everything, and the director goes, no, we're going to have him come in from the other way. And a lot of trainers would just go, what? Oh, no. But by teaching, by mixing things up on them all the time, and having them to have to figure it out, then it's a simple deal. Okay, come here. Get over there and show. And, so that's where I'm at with my dog, but I would be further along.
Yeah.
I have a second trainer. But the thing is, I don't want to show him until he's at least 2 years old. So he's a typical border collie that wants to love and be around everybody.
Yeah.
When you're working with extras and crew and all that, they've got to get some of that out of their system. And I'm not going to be hard on them. I'm going to be easy with it. So that's kind of where I'm at now. But he's got a lot of stuff on him.
I would also say, though, that, okay, with my jungle dog, for example, I don't have, like, say for direction, I don't do left or right or whatever. But I have yes and no, basically. I don't use those words. But so if I tell him, I tell him, yeah, he's going that direction, he'll go that direction. And if I tell him no, then he stops and he'll switch direction,
Right, yeah.
Which is good. But you can't do that with every dog, is what I was going to get to. I can think of this bulldog I'm working with. That's not going to work. You know what I mean? It's just, he's a bull. I mean, there's different dogs have different abilities.
Oh yeah. And, like I say, I'm working a border collie.
Yeah. It's easier.
They're the chimps of the dog world.
Yeah.
They've got.
Well, they are, but so are Dutch Shepherds and Malinois. So, do you think that? Here's something. Do you think it's easier? We're talking here, people, about movie stuff, but it's skill, trainer skill. That's what I care about, trainer skill. Do you think it's harder to train a dog? Like, say you're doing, you're telling the dog to come to you for the scene. You're behind the actor or whatever. You think it's easier to have the dog go fast, then slow down, or go slow and then speed up? Which one do you think is more easier or more difficult?
Whatever the director wants.
Yeah, but overall with dogs, don't you find that there's a certain thing that dogs respond better to a certain? I found speeding them up easier most of the time, than slowing them down. Like on a, because you're basically on. It's a recall that you're changing the speed on. So
if you've been on the set for 12 hours. They're going slow. You got to speed them up. Like, come on. That's when you start bringing out all the toys and all
but I'm just saying the physical doing it, as far as, because the dog, okay, like in sport obedience, they're trying to get the dog to go as fast as possible. I mean, that's the thing at all times, right? Down, sit, recall, everything's fast as possible. But with this, like the scene might be, the dog is going this way. Then close up, person who's been gone for a year they show the face, right? So then the dog, then they focus on the dog. Dog realizes it's the guy, and then they want you to speed the dog up on the recall for the master shot and stuff. I find that I think that's easier than having them run fast and then slow in. That's my opinion. I just wanted to.
That is something that you train.
Yeah.
That's another tool that you have in your toolbox.
Yeah.
And I can do that. I could bring them in hot, stop them, slow them down. I could bring them in hot, halfway slow them down, make them go easy, or have them come easy and go fast. You could get into a bit of an issue if you don't have that. The dog or the director says you want him coming in fast and putting his feet up on him like he hasn't seen him for a year, and you get them all into that, right? And then the director decides, no, you know what? I want him to come in slow. And if you don't have those tools in your toolbox, you're gonna give me a few minutes here.
The dog to switch mindsets like that, it's really difficult. You can get the dog amped up, or you can get the dog slow down, but you can want them to switch back and forth and stuff. That really is a skill. I mean, there are a few dogs that can pull it off easily, but most dogs cannot. They just can't.
Yeah. I would say, and a lot of it has to do with the makeup of that particular dog, what he understands and what he's been trained to do. Normally, in my little film world, it's not going to be okay. Do this, do that. No, do this, do that. The director is going to land on a spot, and this is the one we're doing, so you'll know. Very seldom do they would change something that dramatically. I can see them changing directions and okay, yeah, when he gets up on the couch, I don't want him to put his head down on the guy. I want him to lie on his side. Okay, and I just taught him to put his head down on the bed. Okay, so give me 1 second. Bring him up there. Stay. No, don't do that. On your side. Okay, good boy. Let's do it. So, but these are things that I train.
Right.
You know, anytime I'm training, I'm like, let's see here, get up on there. Okay, now lie down. Okay, now get up here. Now put your foot up there and lie down. Now put your foot up there and head down. Okay, now back up. I don't want you to do that. Now get on your side. So I'll just do that. You know, all that stuff is really, really cool for training. Hey, puppy.
That's my number 2 guy as far as what he can pull off and stuff. This is he's a mix of different things. But he's good. He's a good guy. Gilgamesh. This is Gilgamesh. But he he likes to lick me too. So you can see that tongue, anteater tongue coming out at me. You don't have to smear bear grease on or bacon grease on your cheek to get this guy to lick you. You know but yeah, well, see that's one of the things people don't realize is those are really good mental stimulation things for the dog. Actually, what you're talking about doing all those different things, but all that stuff has to be trained. And people even like barking, right? I mean, you know this, but for people, it's like you could train the dog to bark in one location. Doesn't mean it's going to generalize to another location. I mean, you have to train a dog in a bunch of locations so that he'll do it in different places. And that's what a lot of people as pet dog owners, they don't get it. They're like, well, he did it here. It's like, yeah, well, it's not the same to the dog. They're very specific, and especially to location. They're very specific to location. Well, like, for example, you train the dog to bark sitting. Now you want the dog to bark when he's lying down. Ooh, it's a whole nother story. You know, I mean, it's another story. Then it's not just like, okay, down. Just using terms here, down, bark, whatever. It's not going to happen. You know, I mean, you're going to have to specifically work on it. And that's what I don't think a lot of people understand is that all these things that you're talking about doing, you're mixing them up, right? I mean, you're not teaching a pattern, which is what we were talking earlier. That's what stage dogs learn. They're looking for. I mean, so are sport people really too, because the dogs can learn patterns pretty well. So they learn the pattern.
You have to do that on a film set. A lot of times I will teach. I call it routining. They call it changing. But I would teach a dog routine, and I tell this story about a thing that I did on Here's Boomer, and it was the dog had, and he's working with Ron Silver, Ron Silver's a detective, and they're trying to find these jewels that were stolen in this mansion or something. So the dog comes into a bedroom, and he's looking all over the place. So I've got him, going to the wall and looking at the things and all that stuff. And then he finally, I forget the very end of the thing is he, on the very other side of the room, the last thing he does is pull open a drawer and either pick it, it must have been picking it up there or putting it, I can't remember, and then shuts the drawer and leaves. So when we did that, the script supervisor said, okay, that took too long. The show is running long. He's got to do it in a certain amount of time. So, okay. So I changed things up a little bit because I didn't want it to look like he had done the same thing before. So I changed some things up on him. But I had him basically doing the same thing, just changing a little bit. And when we finally did it, and the dog, Boomer, I was like, hurry, come on, get over it. And pick it up, pull, now close it, get out the door. And he slammed that drawer shut, bam. And the script supervisor said, perfect, right on time. And everybody started to applaud. The crew guys started to applaud because but I was laughing like hell because he slammed that drawer shut and jumped out of the room. Yeah, he was like, I'm on a mission. And
the dog was like, that's a wrap. All right. I mean, the dog was like, that's a wrap, you know?
Yeah. But it's things like that in the film business, stuff like that to me is the most fun. That's when I really had a lot of fun routining many different things. You know, have them do this, open that, close that, do this, that, and just do it all, you know, without a cut. Just showing them how, you know. And to me, that was I loved doing that more than, you know, the things that I hated were actors talking, and the dog is lying there. And
the prop,
the scene is dramatic or whatever it is. I really don't care. It's like, oh man, stay there, just stay there. Don't move. I hated those kinds of scenes. But
yeah, well, but that's the thing. Most that's what. It's just like extras. I mean, the dog's an extra, really. Basically, that's, you know, it's like the same. It's the same thing. The extras
are not if he's a star.
Well, no, but I'm saying, and most of the things that people,
most of the time they're a prop.
Yeah, they're like an extra, and they're used to, you know, even in some TV series, they're like an extra. You see them walk on, walk off, right? You know what I mean? Like, I mean,
here's the thing about extras. A really good extras are worth their weight in gold, because the last thing you want is the whole big scene and somebody looking at the camera.
Yeah. This is the.
You know who was I'll tell you, one of the biggest fans of extras was Michael Landon, because there was a thing when the extras wanted to get into the union.
Yeah.
Being fairly unfairly treated, and. They interviewed Michael because not only was he an actor, but he was also a producer. And they asked, and Michael just straight up said, "Hey, you know, they're worth their weight in gold. If you're on camera, you got to be doing what you're supposed to do. You're acting. The same thing with a dog. If a dog is on camera, he's acting.
Yeah.
Or at least he better be, or he's going to be running out of the shot or something. So if you're on camera, you know, it's important." And like I used to in the stunt world, I mean, people could throw a punch and do a fight and do all these things. Yeah. But the problem was, a lot of times I would run into where the actors that were supposedly in the fight, and I'd have a double doing their thing, and then the actor would also do the fight. And there are times, I'm not telling, times where the actor was better than the stunt guy, because the stunt guy doesn't care. It's like actors put the acting in it, you know. Yeah. And
selling it. It's like,
you have to. If you're on screen, you got to act.
You got to sell it, as you know. Gene LaBelle's always telling me, you got to sell this. You know, you got to sell this. Yeah, I mean that's the thing. The same thing with the dogs, right? I mean they gotta be able to sell the fact that they're actually they're there, you know, they're actually there.
You're the one that's acting through the dog.
You're
the one that's, because emotion is paramount in dog training, all dog training, but especially in films. You know, you want the dog to be down and easy, or you want him up and going, you know. And that's emotion, and you better be able to bring it on set. And I've seen dog trainers on set who, well, they're kind of shy about saying anything because I don't want people looking at. Hey, you have a job to do. You know what the crew people would tell me on Boomer? They loved watching the dog, but they loved watching me more. Because I would be in a tree behind a toilet. I would be on the floor. I would do anything I could to get what I wanted out of the shot.
I think, if I remember correctly, Joe Camp freaked out the first time that he heard Frank Yen, how he would get Higgins, Benji, to do certain things. And he's like, hey, you
heard that, but
hey, you rotten piece of crap dog. You know what I mean? Because he was, trying to get him to act like he was scared and all this stuff. And
it works.
And Joe Camp was like, what are you doing? Stop. He's like, Frank was like, what? is the dog not doing what you want? You know, I mean, he's like, well, are you abusing the dog? He's like, no, you know, and it's like, you know, because
I never heard that story.
Really? You know,
I was with him for a solid month, but
yeah,
I've done that. Like when Benji had to be Benji in the very beginning of the movie sees this dog sees this cougar get shot and killed and falls off a rock, and Benji has to be really happy seeing this cougar, and then it gets shot and fall and then just goes down. And I did the same thing. It was like, God, boy, no, whoa, okay,
yeah. Yeah, well, I mean that you know, yeah, Frank Inns told that story actually, but he's the one that told that about Joe Camp, how, you know, Joe Camp was freaked out.
They were always getting into it,
you know,
always getting into it, and
freaked out.
It was like the two old married couple, you know. I mean, they just, but they loved each other, and they had worked, I don't know how many films together.
Yeah,
you know.
Well, this is the very first one. This was whatever.
The first one, okay.
Yeah, 78 or whatever it was, or whatever it was.
Yeah,
it was that one. And Joe Camp didn't know. You know, I mean, he you know, he knew Frank Inn was incredible, but he didn't know how it was done, I guess, you know, and he just freaked out because. But then
I think Benji the Hunted was probably the last one that Frank did.
Yeah, it's like that's like 5 or 6, right? I mean, that was
they did some Benjis after that.
Yeah, who did the I don't know who did the training on those.
Well, for one thing, Joe bought some dogs and wanted to do some training on them, and then I know he brought in Roger Schumacher, and I don't know who else. There was somebody else that did one of the Benji movies after Frank Inn. But I'm not real sure. And Benji movies just kind of died a slow death after that.
Yeah, deteriorated. Yeah. I mean, you can't. I don't know. You can't separate Frank Inn from Benji. You know, I mean, not.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. I mean, you just can't.
I'm really happy that I was. That was a tough movie for me. Probably the toughest animal movie I've ever worked on because. Number one, I'm working Benji, and you know it's not going to look good on my resume if a cougar eats Benji. So you know, and so I'm doing it. And plus, the things that Joe Camp would ask for, I had never been that specific. So
well, he got spoiled, right? I mean, he got spoiled working with Frank Inn. You know, I think because Frank was able to do a lot of things that you wouldn't find a lot of other trainers doing.
Well, I had to. There were times when, you know, the reason Frank didn't do it is because he couldn't get out on location a lot.
Right. Yeah, no. But I'm talking about Frank training the dog to have, like, you know, like you were saying before, like have 10 different barks and stuff. Yeah. You know, yeah. I mean,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that
was something that I did. You know, and then when Joe would ask for that, I just okay. Well, here's how I would do it.
Yeah,
and it's exactly what Frank did. But you know, you can take a dog on a show, and I can show you everything about my border collie.
Yeah,
but you're not going to know everything about my border collie.
Right.
You're not going to know. Yeah. So there were a lot of times I felt like it was earn while you learn on a film.
Yeah, that's good. That's good stuff there.
I thought I knew a lot until I worked on Benji the Hunted, and then I realized how much I didn't know. He did. So we had a scene where we're in the forest, and there's no houses around or anything like that. So I want Benji to come around someplace, stop, and
sniff. Yeah, do the sniff.
Yeah. So I'm, fortunately, Frank, this was an area Frank could get into, So he brought his little golf cart up and all that stuff. And what they did was they had a little generator hooked up to an electric frying pan with a bunch of bacon in it.
That's what I thought. That would have been my guess. Yeah, with a fan, right? With a little fan.
Yeah, and as soon as it and open that and get a little whiff, and I was like, wow, that's really cool. I'd have been like, how the hell am I going to do this? You know?
Well, I would think, I mean, he knows the dog, obviously, but you would have a hard time having the dog hold the stay. You know what I mean? I mean, a lot of dogs would have a hard time holding the stay once they got the, you know, depending on when they ate and stuff. I mean, they would want to break free and go find them.
Yeah, but this was Benji. I mean, he told him to stay, he'd stay, or she.
Well, yeah, but that was an exceptional dog. I mean, we talk about
good trainer. I mean,
you talk about these
proposition.
Yeah. Well, you talk about these the exceptional dogs, like, you know, most of the Lassies, Rin Tin Tin, you know, Benji. These were exceptional dogs. Exceptional dog. I mean, they weren't just dogs that were trained well. They just had a lot more ability than. I mean, look how old Benji was. I mean, the original Benji, Higgins. That dog was like 14 years old when they did.
When he passed away.
Yeah, did the last movie, and you can't see it. I mean, you don't. I mean, I've looked at that movie and I'm like, oh my God, this is good work. I mean, I'm like, oh God, like Frank, like, this is some good work, and yeah, if you hear the story about that, how he's like, oh no, that dog's retired. And then Joe Camp's like, well, can I see him do this and that? Oh, he said, yeah, he can do it, but he's retired. And they did something across the roof or something, down a ladder or something. And he's like, that's the dog that I want, and it's like, he's like, oh, I had to start putting Benji back into training, or Higgins back into training, so he, because he's like, he had arthritis and stuff. And anyway, but that, I mean, that's really amazing for the age of the dog and stuff. But there was exceptional dogs. You can't do that with every single dog.
No, you can't. But I'll tell you, we got Boomer out of the pound. He had been in a lot of fights. He had been torn by his rear leg underneath his belly, and and he was I don't know, probably 2 years old maybe or more when we got him out of the pound and I started training him.
Yeah.
But as you start training, and like, I didn't have a whole lot of dogs to train. My dog was already in the show doing what, he had all the training that I needed to put on him.
Yeah.
The only dog that I had to train was Johnny. That ended up being Boomer, and I just put a lot of training on him. And of course, when you start doing a show, every scene you're doing is training.
Yeah.
Every time you do something, the dog is learning something more and more. And he wasn't the smartest or the fastest, but he had the biggest heart and wanted to do things for you. I remember doing on the pilot for the series. It was called A Christmas for Boomer, and we had shot. We were probably into our 14th hour, and he's standing by the bed in the principal's home, wherever it was, and they're asleep in the bed, and he's standing there, and I forget what the scene entails, but he's just got to stand there, and it's dark, and I'm under the bed, having him come in and stay, and I had him stay, and poor guy, he was falling asleep on his feet, but he wouldn't lie down. But his eyes kept closing, and I kept having to go, any kind of noise I could get away with to keep his eyes open. And that's the kind of heart he had. I mean, he was just he was an amazing dog for what it was.
Did he live with you? No.
He stayed up at Universal.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I always find that there's a big difference between the people who have the dog with them and then check them in and out or whatever, kennel them or whatever. And I mean, it's usually a huge difference, because that's where the dog will start. It's like the dog is doing things because the dog likes you, not just because the dog is. It's not like
I didn't have a choice, and but I did spend. I was spending every day with him.
Well, that's weird. We were talking about Evans earlier. She almost stole a raccoon from Frank Yin. She did that. You remember that commercial? Oh, that's not nice to fool Mother Nature.
Yeah, sure.
She did that. That was her work for that commercial with Mother Nature with all the animals and stuff. The raccoon especially, and that was Frank's raccoon, and she was like keeping the raccoon and stuff, and she said she came real close to telling Frank, no, the raccoon ran away because she didn't want to give him. She didn't want to give him back or whatever.
Yeah, you can't be doing that kind of stuff.
But she, she's like, I was like, because she was telling me about that. I said, I remember that commercial. I said, that commercial is pretty good, because I said, anyway, she was just telling me some of her work, and I was like, oh yeah, and then she was telling me how much she loved that raccoon, and I was like, yeah, I said I heard raccoons are good until they get to a certain age, though, and then it's like kind of like a chimp. You got to, you got the same problems. You got the same kind of, well, not exactly the same problems, but you got, they change when they go.
I've never spent that. I had some little bitty raccoons that I fostered, and they stayed with me for a while. But raccoons are smart; they can do a lot of things, but they can be snotty if you don't raise them right.
Same thing with. Do you ever work with skunks?
Yeah.
They're
like a cat. I love them.
That's what I was going to say. That's what everybody's ever worked with, and they're like, it's just like it's. It reminds me. You remember Pepe Le Pew? I love that. I love that cartoon. It's the same thing. Oh, my sweetheart. It's just it's a cat that just always walks underneath a white paintbrush or whatever. He thinks it's a skunk, and it's so funny because it's like, you're just training us. Cat,
it's just I dated a girl a long time ago when I was working at Universal, and she had a brown and white skunk, and so it wasn't an indigenous to America. And it was a cat that it just lied around right next to her like a cat. You pet it, and it was a cat basically. I loved it. I thought it was really cool.
Was he descended? Was he descended or whatever?
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah. That's the one thing, because man, oh God, it's like, I've had dogs, who had never met skunks before, and when they run out in the woods or whatever, oh no way, like I've had hunting dogs and stuff, no, like this is not going to be good for either one of us, you know what I mean? Because that stuff's, that and porcupines, but it's a different story. But everybody says that about skunks, that they're if you can train a cat, you can train a skunk. Basically, you can have you could have skunk do stuff too, which is pretty cool. But there's not a lot of skunk work, is there? There's not a lot of cat work either. That's what Robert. Well, one of the things that Robert, we were talking before one time, and I said, how are our exotic animal trainers even surviving anymore? Is there any work for these people that had bears and tigers and lions and stuff? Because the food bill. The food bill for these guys. Is there any work? What do they do?
Well, Keith Bauer, who's a dynamite bear trainer and has been for a long time, he still works a lot, from what I understand. But I don't know that it's in the States as much as possibly somewhere else. And with the CGI, and now with AI, the years from now, maybe not even years from now, if kids want to see a real animal, they're going to have to go to a zoo because they're not going to see them on TV.
Well, but I was just wondering because, that was like, I think I mentioned that, because I always wanted to be a big cat trainer, and there were a few people. Oh, did you know? I didn't ask you this, and I knew I wanted to do this. Did you know Dan Haggerty? Did you? Okay.
I worked with him.
Oh, did you on Gentle or?
Yeah, I did Life and Times of Grizzly Adams.
Yeah.
That was really an interesting shoot. I got to say, it's good. I had worked my Eagle on a movie up in Salt Lake City that Kent Bateman, Jason Bateman's father, produced and directed and wrote. And when this Haggerty thing came up, they had already known about my Eagle. So they called and said, hey, can you come up and do this thing? So, yeah, sure. So, you know, when you're just like, okay, so I get to this place, and as a trainer in the film business, usually they put you up in a hotel and that kind of thing. So I get an address, and I'm driving from California to Salt Lake, so with my 2 Eagles, and I get there, and it's this 2 big, huge condominiums, and I forget where they were. They were nice and everything, you know. And I said, so where am I staying? Where's the hotel? Oh, that condominium there. Find a place, room, or you know. And I'm like, really? Okay. Where do I put my Eagle? You know, I got 2 Eagles. Well, you can put them in the garage. There's nothing in the garage. So my bedroom was like 3 floors up, and then you get to another place, and it's just a little bitty area with a bed. What was really cool, what was really interesting about this, you know, in the old days, film loaders they'd have this thing that their hands would stick in, which was totally black, and they would transfer the film onto the reel, because we were using film back in the days, and not video. So so I'm walking past in the living room, and one guy has got his hands in there, and he's transferring the film to the reel and all that stuff, and another guy is taking a hit off a joint, and he gives him a hit off the joint, and walks, and I'm going, okay, this is really interesting. I've never been in this situation before. But it was really cool. We had a lot of fun, and you know, did whatever we did. I forget what shots we did, but and then went home. He was a cool guy. He used to work. Dan Haggerty used to work at a body shop in San Fernando Valley.
Well, he was okay. So, what's the real story? He was an animal trainer and a stuntman, and then became an actor? Is that what happened? And he sold the idea to
I don't know much about animal trainers or stunt. I know that I only know because my brother would tell me, because he was into hot rods and all kinds of shit. And he said that he worked at this body shop in North Island before he got that job. So I don't really know what brought him to that. If he was, I don't think if he did stunts, it probably wasn't a whole lot. And animal training, probably the same thing. He probably dabbled in it somewhere. But I don't think that was really his profession.
Oh, okay. Because I thought
it was perfect for the part, you know.
Yeah, well, I thought, because I heard somewhere, you know, but we're talking, you know, years, that the bear was his or something. That's what I heard, and that's why, because you know there was a lot of shots with him with the bear all the time, right? And it's like because they were so familiar that they could do that. That's what I heard. But then, you know, at the end, I also heard that, you know, I mean, he ended up hanging around the David Letterman show. Did you know that?
No.
Well, I don't know if I want to say anything on this, but yeah, because you know he got drug charges, and because he was trying to feed his animals, is what I heard. You know that he wasn't making any money anymore, so yeah, he became kind of a, you know.
Yeah, I don't know. I do know one thing that he was. They were out partying at a restaurant somewhere, and he was drinking a flaming drink, and his beard caught on fire. Now, I'm pretty sure that's a true story, but anything else,
yeah. Well, you know, I mean, Yeah, because I mean, yeah, I could. One, we're talking about the food bill for if you have exotic animals. I mean, it's enormous. So I doesn't. I wouldn't put it past that was what the reasoning or whatever. But I mean, I guess I could probably go research and find out what happened. But I know that
I look at him and I look at the experience that I had. He was a cool guy, and
yeah. I mean, it has nothing to.
I really don't care.
Yeah. It doesn't change anything. It doesn't change anything. It's just what my point on it. If that's true, he's just dedicated to the animals. That's what I'm getting to. Which is good. Like
if that's true, who knows?
Yeah. I like to see. I like to see the people who are dedicated to the animals who are doing the taking care. I mean, that's the thing. Like some of like you're talking about, you weren't working a lot of different dogs, and you find at that one time period for Boomer, and you find like the people who were really good, they really just concentrated on one or two animals at the time. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like Rudd Weatherwax example, right? I mean, other people were doing the other work that he had to do, but he was concentrating on Hey or Pal originally, whatever. And the same thing, like Lee Duncan didn't do any other. He did the other dogs that would be in the shoot, but he didn't go off on other projects or anything. He was, strictly Rin Tin Tin, and that's where you see the best work. Is what I'm getting to. You see it when the people can focus, and work really with a lot with one or two dogs or whatever. And
it's very, very hard. And there's people who have started off training and they do really, really well, and then they have a company and the training kind of slides a little bit because you can't put all that focus on 5 dogs like you can 1 dog. It's tough. I mean, and you can try it for a while, but you're going to get burned out. So that's a tough thing. And then, the old thing is, the animal that gets the job gets the training.
Yeah. Well, we were talking about that before, how the difference between how Carl viewed it and how Robert's dad viewed it, and it's like, Robert's dad's like, the dog's got to have all the skills ahead of time. And Carl's like, well, if the dog gets it from the looks, then I'll give the training to the dog. And I kind of more go with Robert's dad on that, but I understand Carl. I understand what Carl was saying.
Well, it depends. Yeah. If you have, like my border collie, if I get a job with them or with him, then that's the case.
Yeah.
But if somebody called me and said they wanted a totally different type of dog, can I find one? It's like Steve Behrens when he did I Am Legend.
German Shepherd. Yeah,
he just got that German Shepherd and trained it for that movie. And he's a hell of a good trainer, and the stuff he got from that dog was really, really good. And it was okay. I got this movie. I got to get this dog, and I got to train him. But he devoted a lot of time to that dog.
Yeah,
you have to.
Yeah. Well, what's the most? Well, I mean, you had birds. You probably had more birds than. You had more than one bird at a time, obviously, right? I mean.
Yeah, we had a lot of birds.
Yeah, but how many? How many personal dogs have you had at one time? What's the? What's your record? What's your record on that?
Not that many. I would say. All together now, I'm looking at the pictures on the wall that I have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 10.
Yeah, and they were all different. I mean, they were all different types of dogs. Yeah. And so what I'm getting to is I have a bunch. I have a lot, and they're all different too. So did you? Just like, okay, this guy knows this, or the dog. This dog knows this stuff, and if I need a dog for this dog knows this stuff. You know what I mean? You had like they're not all trained at the same level. Is what I'm getting to, right? You put more.
No, I always try. That's my goal.
Oh yeah.
Always put the same tools in whatever toolbox I'm using. I always do that. It's very hard for me, and now in my old age, I've laxed a little bit with my boarder. I don't make him heel when I walk, but I won't let him pull me either.
Yeah.
But when I want him to heel, then I'll tell him to get into my side and stay there, and I'll do that. But I really relaxed on that. But one thing that I cannot do when I'm teaching and training, and I say stay, and the dog takes half a step forward, no, and 1,000 times no. When I tell you to stay, you stay. You don't take half a step, a quarter step, nothing. And that's always something I got into a thing one time where I was letting somebody, I was doing the Rin Tin Tin Canine Cop show that we did in the 90s. And one of the things was the director had a very tight shot, and the dog has to stand up into that shot, and it's very close on the head. And, okay. So I had someone, another trainer who had come up to help me. I said, yeah, why don't you go ahead and do this. And the problem was that when the dog stood, it moved a little bit. Well, when you're in that tight of a shot, you're out of focus. And the person said, you just can't do that. You just can't have him stand up. I said, okay. Here, wait for a second. Okay. Lie down. Stay. Cut, print, moving on. Yes, you can do that. But, so that's kind of if there's a pet peeve of mine, it's like I try not to ever let my dog cheat, and especially on a film set. And I have gotten in a lot of trouble. I don't say cut. I just walk in front of the camera.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Right. Well, I won't, because the thing is, if I let my, and then the director might say, well, no, that's okay. That's okay if he does it. That's fine. No, it's not okay, because I didn't tell him to do that.
Yeah.
If I let him cheat in front of a camera, 1 inch turns into a mile, and I'm gonna have to fix this at some point. So I'm gonna fix it right now. You can yell at me all you want for standing in front of your camera. I don't care. Well,
I've had to kind of switching, but I've done, work where they're filming me and I'm doing dialogue, right? And you do several different takes, and I found it's like I was like, oh man, it's like, oh, that one wasn't as good as I could do it, and they're like, you want to do, I want to do another one, and so, but then they use the bad one. So I've learned that when I start feeling like it's not going, I don't want I don't want this to stand for all time. You know what I mean? Because it does. You know how it is. Like
life is short, film is forever.
Yeah, and so I've had. You have to ruin your own shot. You know what I'm saying? So they won't use it. I had to learn that. I had to learn it the hard way, because they took the worst of the takes that I did and they used it. You know what I mean? And I'm like, oh my God, I was watching it. I'm like, oh my God, what the hell?
That happens a lot in animal worlds, because the dog, say you do 10 takes and the dog is perfect on 10 takes, but the camera was a problem, sound was a problem, something moving in the background, an extra looked into the camera, and the very last time, the very last take you do, everything works fine, but the dog didn't. But that's the one they're going to use, because everything else worked fine. So sometimes you win, sometimes you lose.
Do you ever know this guy who went by the name of Captain Haggerty? He did a lot of East Coast stuff. He was also a stuntman too. He worked in a lot of Burt Reynolds movies.
Okay.
He was a dog trainer, but in the Korean War he was a dog trainer, and then he came out and stuff. And anyway, I haven't ever seen a lot of work he did, but he did some stuff, you know. Anyway, but he would say to them, they're like, well, can your dog do this in one take? And his reply, he said, you got to learn what to say. He said, can your crew do it in one take? You know what I mean? You know, he's like, the dog can't, but can your crew? You know, because he wanted to change the dynamic, that they wouldn't blame the dog, you know, for the thing.
Well,
So
that was the story in the 70s and 80s, you know. A lot of people, a lot of trainers felt that way, that they were using the animal as an excuse why maybe they didn't get their day, or they had to go into overtime. And it's very easy to do that. But, you know, if you're working your dog and you've got the producer on set and they see what it is, then you're like, you've got ammunition to fire back and say, no.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. But I thought
a lot of people use that excuse.
Yeah. I thought that was good. You know, it's good. You just say right away.
It is. Yeah.
You know, it's like, yeah.
You know, it's the whole thing. Like, well, and here's something that they would do a lot. You'd come on set and the actors are rehearsing. Okay, and you're standing there watching. Okay, ready to shoot. Well, can I work my dog in this day? Well, I thought your dog was trained. Your actors aren't trained. They just got to rehearse, and they're humans. My dog is smarter than they are. You know what? I forgot. Next time I'll line his kennel with the script so he can read it. And I've gotten into that discussion with the powers to be before. So. Yeah. No rehearsal time, right? They don't want to give any rehearsal time. And I've worked with producers who are like, what do you need? And I said 5 minutes. All right, everybody sit down for 5 minutes. Brian's got the floor. And I had a really, really, really tough thing to do one night with my dog and the cat, and the dog was off doing something else, and the cat is doing something that was really, really hard, and it was at night, and it was like a junkyard kind of thing, and it was really tough, and I was having a problem with it. And I went to Lena Cordina, great producer, PM, and I said, Lena, I need 5 minutes, I can fix this. And she just turned around and told everybody to sit down. And with less than 5 minutes, I had it fixed and we got the shot. But I needed that. I needed everybody just to be quiet, leave the phone, let me do my thing. And if some people will allow that, and some people will go, 5 minutes? You know how much money that is? 5 minutes? And you're like, okay, well.
Well, I don't know. I wouldn't know, because dogs don't get residuals, you know. So you know, don't get
neither do dog trainers.
Yeah, they don't get residuals, you know. So
that's why they're trying to get into SAG.
Yeah.
Puppy masters get residuals.
Yeah,
aren't we the same thing?
Yeah. Well, no, it's harder. The dog.
Yeah, but I mean,
dog. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
You know, it's the same thing. You're working that star there. I'm working that star there.
Well, you know, if electricians knew how much set electricians get paid, they all quit their normal electrician job, you know, and go, you know what I'm saying? Because set electricians get paid way more than normal electricians. I mean, you know, the whole thing, and the painters too. You know, they all get paid way more than the people who do the actual, you know, job. But not the dog trainers. They don't. I mean, because there are people out and, you know, making more money as you well know. It's much harder doing what's done.
You can make some really good money as a dog trainer in films.
Do you know who Kira Sundance is? Do you know who Kira Sundance is? She's does a lot of trick and agility stuff, and she's mainly done commercials and things. And you know, she was telling me this a couple of years ago. She's telling me, yeah, well, you know, the thing is, so nobody's paying money to bring people out of California. They're all going for local. So you know, when they shoot stuff, they're all going for local trainers, and you got to have, and it's no like how Robert was used to it. It's like, you're the trainer, we're going to give you the dog to train. She's like, that's over and done with. You got to have the dog already. You know, they're going to the people who have, they'll just look through a bunch of trainers and then find who's got the type of dog that they want, and then go to that trainer.
There's a show they're doing in Canada right now, been doing it for a few years. And they can't get much out of the dog at all, but yet they say the dog is fantastic. If you're going to go with someone who's not up to par, and the dog is not up to par, then you're just going to have to settle for whatever you can get.
Well, but I'm saying, you know, she's just saying that the cost, they're cutting. There's so much, you know, they're saving so much money by getting.
Well, not necessarily. Yeah, it's like when I used to bring my dog on in Canada, there were many shows that I worked for. I was charging twice as much as anybody else, twice as much. And now this was back in the 90s. I was charging $1,000 a day, but I didn't do any overtime with that dog. Do you know how much 1 hour of overtime cost?
For the film, you mean the entire production? Yeah,
for film, for crew, for actors. You get into an hour of overtime, that's a lot. So you have a good dog, and you can make some good money, but your dog has got to perform. And if your dog puts the company into overtime, $1,000 is nothing.
You know, speaking of that in Canada, I mean, Gene LaBelle hated that all these people, because he knew all the stunt guys that were working in Canada. He said, you know, they asked me to go. I said, I won't do it because it's not union. And he's saying, you know, they're all getting screwed because they're not getting any residuals.
Oh, that changed a long time ago.
Did it? Yeah. We'll talk about the 90s. This is in the 90s.
No, they were unionized. They belonged to ACTRA, which was the Screen Actors Guild.
He was saying that the stunt guys weren't getting residuals though from the when they were doing remember when they redid the Kung Fu thing and they shot it? Yeah, the Toronto and stuff. Yeah. Gene was telling me that because what was it, Mike? What's the stunt guys? Mike
Vendrell was one of them.
Yeah.
Allison Reed was a stunt coordinator. Steve Lasesco was a stunt coordinator.
And he said he got called. You know, because he said, you know, I know all those guys, and they you know how it goes. They offered their friends the jobs, right? And he said, yeah, they offered me, but I don't want to because I don't.
Well, it was a different story. For one thing, you're unless you're going up there on a SAG contract.
Yeah.
And making U.S. money. If you go up there and work on an ACTRA contract, you're getting Canadian money. Yeah. So, like right now, Canadian is 74 cents to $1. Yeah. So and also since I work SAG and ACTRA, they have different residuals. You do it a different way. And you get more on SAG as a residual than you do ACTRA, but ACTRA seems to run longer, but you get paid less. So and also like you can work on it if you work on a little TV show, they may have a buyout of 50%. You work on a feature film, and they might have a buyout of 130%. So that means a lot. I had to fly through some windows of a car. We were head-on collision, and that was a feature film, and it was 130% buyout. So say you get you get $6,000 for being there that day, or $2,500, and then the buyout on top of that is 130%. So you add 130% to your $500, whatever it was you're making, and the same thing with the stunt residual. If you get a great, like for that stuff, I got a $3,000 residual or not residual, but bump for that. And so when you add all that up together, then, you know, you've made like 10 grand for that night.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm just saying this is what Gene was telling me, you know, because I was saying
a lot of people, the States, a lot of people didn't want to because it was a totally different thing. And if they're used to working SAG, and if they're not going to, because, you know, the hours you put into SAG or the Teamsters or whatever union you're working for, you need those hours to keep up your medical and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So why do I want to go to Canada and not get my hours?
Right. Well, and you know, this wasn't the beginning of his career either, you know. So I mean, you know, that changes everything too. So that was because
I remember talking to, he came out on Boomer once, and we were talking to him about doing something, and he got hit by a bull in one scene that he had to get hit, and he said he knew his calf was bleeding. or his ankle was bleeding or something like that. He says, but I didn't even want to look because I still had 4 high falls to do that day. So yeah, I don't even want to look.
Yeah, that's I mean, yeah, he was he had a really good outlook on most stuff, you know what I mean? He's like, always wear a mouthpiece. I don't care if you're walking across the set, wear a mouthpiece. You know, because he's like, that's when you lose a tooth. You know what I mean? Like, you know, it's like these guys want to be tough and macho. I don't care. I'm putting a mouthpiece in and a helmet on. You know, you know. And I was like,
I liked him a lot. He was a good guy.
You know, he was like, yeah. So, but anyway, I'm just throwing that out there because of. But you were doing stunt work though. I mean, he would have been too. Now, have you done a lot of dog work in Canada or not?
Yeah, I did a lot of dog work in Canada.
On features or on TV?
Features and TV, mostly TV.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We did a movie or a TV series called Animorphs, a TV series called Wind at My Back. There was another TV series called Goosebumps.
Yeah, I remember that one. Did you work on X-Files when they were filming?
No. When they were filming X-Files, I don't think I was in Canada at that point. I didn't move up there till I was about 40 years old.
Yeah, well, that's in the 90s. They started filming.
Oh, no, then I didn't work on that. That might have been Vancouver, and I was in
Canada. Yeah, it was Vancouver. Yeah, it was Vancouver. Yeah. They shot. Yeah, there's 2 different places people would go: British Columbia, or they would go to Ontario, Toronto, which is like the fake news.
Toronto, you could say that. I mean, you could say it was New York. You could.
Yeah, they try. Yeah,
and then within a half an hour, you can be in the country.
They try to act like it is New York. The people who live there and stuff. Yeah.
And you know, it worked. It worked in a lot of things. I mean, but the thing about it is, you could be filming something that looks like Chicago, and then you could move the whole company within an hour or 2 out of the country, where you couldn't even do that in LA. I mean,
no.
The country in LA, it would take you days.
Well, you know what? It's like too. Plus, you see the same. If you know what you're to look for, you see the same. You know that tree that everybody drives around like it was in Dukes of Hazzard. You know, they're supposed to be in Georgia. It's Southern California. You know, or the same thing with MASH. You know, it was all filmed. It's all filmed in that Malibu Canyon area. And if you've watched enough things, you're like, that's the same location that they're using for, you know what I mean, for this and this and this and this. You just can't make Southern California look like everywhere. You know, I mean, that, you know, that's just.
But that's a film business. I mean, it's fiction. It's.
Yeah, but I mean, when you're trying to create an ambiance, right? I mean, if you got wardrobe that's accurate and stuff like that, but you don't have locations that look like, the actual place, you know, I mean, but.
Well, if you're too worried about that, you're not going to watch the show anyway. You're not going.
Well, I don't know, but I mean, you take criticism. You know, I mean, you take that, like those. You know, some movies are very good. Like, you know, that whole Last of the Mohicans. They did a whole lot of what Daniel Day-Lewis talk about prep. He did tons of prep for that role, and also to make the fighting authentic for the time, for the time period and stuff. I mean, they did a lot. That guy's obsessional though too. I mean, he's a good actor. That's why, because they get. I mean, it's the same thing you're talking about with the dog. If you're not obsessional, I mean, it's back to Gene LaBella. He's like, he didn't want to know people if they weren't fanatics, And then,
yeah, when you talk about productions, there's so many things that go into it. First and most important to all that stuff, money.
Yeah.
If you got money to go on good locations, okay, fine.
Yeah.
If you don't, then you're going to pretend.
Yeah.
And that's the way it is. It's always been that way, and it will always be that way. If you look at like Indiana Jones and these places, they really went to Venice. They really went to these places.
James Bond movies were famous.
You're not going to do that on some of these other shows.
Well,
no, we'll do it all right here on a sound stage. We'll make it. As a matter of fact, we did a TV series called Amazon, and it was after the books, and it was all supposed to be taking place in the Amazon, and this whole huge studio was full of plants, and they had a river through it and stuff like that to make it look like the Amazon. Well, after so long, it became its own. Things were growing and all kinds of things were happening.
Heat lamps and stuff. Well, I talk about faking me out. Gilligan's Island faked me out. I mean, that was the back lot of whatever. It doesn't exist anymore. Stuff, but I mean, that was the back lot, and they shot from a certain angle to make it, you know what I mean, to make it. And I was like, it faked me out. I mean, I was completely faked out. That they actually, I didn't know there were no location shots. There were no location. That's what I'm getting to. There were no location shots for Gilligan's Island, for example. And I mean that totally faked. I mean, I believed it, and I think that the same thing they faked with Beverly Hillbillies when they were supposed to be back in whatever Bug Tussle or whatever it was. That wasn't. There was no bug. They weren't going anywhere. They were filming, in that area, same sound stages and stuff like that. But yeah. So I mean, it's all money. I mean, it's all money. And can you believe that Walt Disney spent like on Swiss Family Robinson? They flew all of those animals on a cargo plane to an island and constructed all that stuff. They constructed that treehouse and all that. And then they came back and they had to try to recreate that at the Walt Disney World.
Oh, I don't know about that, but
yeah. But they flew all of those animals there, I mean, that's a huge amount. I mean, that's a lot of money.
When we did Benji, we were working on top of a mountain in Washington, and you could see Mount Hood, what was left of it, and you could see the other mountains also. I mean, we were way up there. We had one helicopter. It was a Mini 500, like we used to use in Vietnam. Right away, the first lift would take Joe up there. And he'd start looking at Joe and the camera guy, and then they'd bring up the camera equipment, and then we'd bring up the dogs. And as we're filming, they're bringing up cougars, they're bringing up wolves, they're bringing up the other trainers. We had one helicopter to do everything. And then at the end of filming, everything had to be taken down every day. So, that was a lot.
Yeah, the logistics. I mean, the logistics. And now that's, of course, because transportation costs have gone way up. So all of that stuff's got to become prohibitive, I would think,
if you have the money.
Lots of money. I mean, but because a lot of stuff, I'm auditioning for an independent. I'm not. I mean, the dog is auditioning for an independent movie, and I don't know what the finance is. I don't know anything other than what they're looking for, a certain, thing, and that's it. I don't know what the script is. I don't know where they're going to shoot it. I've heard maybe Texas, but I don't know. But I mean, I don't know anything. But it's all comes down to money. Is what I'm getting. What you're saying, especially with independent, right? Because they're looking for financiers that'll change their entire their entire shot. Plus, how much they use a dog for the role. I mean, because the dog's a minimal thing, you know.
Make sure who they are and get some money up front.
Well, yeah, that's that. Yeah, Trav. I'm just trying to pass the audition. Do they like the look of the dog? You know, there's a specific dog that the dog is supposed to portray, and he not that. But I don't think they're going to find that. You know, but my dog looks good and he's cool, and you know what I'm saying.
I'll tell you that they did a show in Toronto. I wasn't involved with it. I was doing stunts at the time. Some people that I knew, good trainers, they came up from LA to do this feature, and all the dogs that they showed on this feature they didn't want. They wanted a specific looking dog, so they had to go get them. I would say it kind of fell on their face. They didn't get. It wasn't a good dog. It wasn't. I don't think it was a high praised dog. It wasn't. They just couldn't get a lot out of them, but they wanted that look. And my argument when I talk to producers and they want a certain type of look is, you can get that look, but if you can't get it on film, it's not going to do any good.
Yeah.
And believe me, the audience isn't going to care if it's that type of dog or that type of dog. If it's doing really cute shit and you really like it, and it's really neat. Well, you're going to go, wow, okay, that's cool.
I mean, my dog is the same. The dog I have is the same type of dog, just not the same color, you know, as the dog. And so, and then it goes to how much they want the dog to do, and I don't know, you know, and anyway, but that's you know, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But you brought something up there that I was gonna. Do you know the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the Quentin Tarantino movie that he did?
Oh, yeah.
They searched all. They got those pit bull. You know, it's just generic, but they got those Staffordshire dogs from a breeder in Connecticut. They paid for two dogs. One did the bite work and one did the other stuff. And then they flew those dogs to California. And Omar, you know, Omar von Mueller, he did some of the training. He's a good trainer. He did Uggy. He did the Artist's Life or whatever. He trained the Fox Terrier in that movie and stuff, and a bunch of other stuff. Anyway, they paid for that. You know what I'm saying? They brought the dogs out. He trained them. They put them in the movie. Then they flew them back to the. I mean, they didn't even buy them. They rented them the entire time. Yeah. And I was saying, Robert, I didn't think they did that anymore. You know? Yeah. And he's like, well, you know, I said, I thought that, you know, nobody. I said, that's some money. You know, I mean,
trainers make a lot of money there.
Yeah.
You got a team of dogs, and you can get, I don't even know what they charge now, but $500-600 a day for a team of dogs, and then plus you're getting $50 an hour for 8 hours, and you know, that's why I'm saying you could, you know, you have a team of dogs or a team of cats or something you're working on. Huh?
Yeah, Renfro's team of cats here. Yeah, I can see answering the phone.
If you got a big show with a cat, you want to have more than one cat.
Yeah. Well, no, I know, but that's just funny. I can see answering the phone. You know what I mean? Yeah. And they had prep time too. There was 6 months prep time, which because
Robert, you make a lot of money.
Yeah, because Robert told me
you could be prepping 3 or 4 shows a day.
Yeah.
You know,
well,
how long can you prep for? Really?
Yeah. Well, that's true. No, if you can't. You can't work a dog, you know, over and over and over and over. He won't. You're not going to.
Well, you're going to go so far, and then it's going to start to decline.
Yeah. So we all know that who do it. I mean, we know, you know, short and sweet a bunch, right? You know. Yeah, that's the way to do it. But you know, some people think, so if you have the dog for working 3 hours a day, you'll be able. You cannot work a dog 3 hours a day, solid teaching. You can't do it. It's like you're going to ruin a dog. That's how to do it. That's a good way to do it, right there. You know. Yeah. So anyway, but Robert said that he got out of the business because they weren't doing that anymore. Is why I bring that up, because he said, they won't get prep time. They wouldn't do, they wouldn't.
Well, that's why when I was in Canada, that's why I charged what I charged. Yeah. Because they would not pay any prep time. They didn't even know what it was back in the day. Prep time? What's that? Isn't your dog already trained? So I would just alleviate all that stuff.
Yeah.
You don't have to pay me transportation. You don't have to pay me for my dog. Nothing.
Oh, really?
A day. Period. $1,000. I come out for 8 hours and work my dog.
So how did you handle the getting the dog up there though? Were you charging?
I was living there.
Oh, you were? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't
I moved up there on the Rin Tin Tin show and stayed.
Oh, okay.
20-some years.
Yeah, I used to work a lot in Canada. I worked mainly in the French. I worked in New Brunswick, but I worked in Quebec.
Oh, New Brunswick, yeah.
Yeah, out Quebec, and I love Quebec people. I really get along with them really, really, really well. And but then I had like a franchise of mine in Hamilton, which is very close to Toronto. Yeah. For quite a while.
It's not that close when you got to drive there at 8 o'clock in the morning.
No, it's not. No.
That's a 3-hour drive.
Yeah, well, no. So I thought that you were coming from U.S. taking your dog to do the thing, and so I was going to say,
when we did the Rin Tin Tin show, yeah, we did. We brought up 9 dogs, and they gave us an old Century home to rent. So we had an actual house. Yeah, and they built us all kennels and everything. It was really cool.
That's cool. Yeah, but I mean, did you get paid? Did you just get paid a flat fee to bring the dogs up, or did you charge per day?
I wasn't involved, and I was just on that show.
Okay.
Drew offered me a movie to do called I can't think of it now, but it was a very popular movie, and he said, or you can go up on this Rin Tin Tin show, be the second trainer, and do all the dog attacks. And I was like, I'm there. That's me. I want to do that, because I was really wanting to get into stunts more and more. And when he offered me that job, I was like, oh yeah, okay, I'll do that one.
Isn't that considered stunt work in the U.S. when you take the dog attacks? If you take a
absolutely.
Because I know Carl, used to do. That's what he used to do.
Anything that's a risk.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But but if you go back into the 70s and stuff, there are a lot of people who wouldn't want to take the dog attacks. Other than the dog trainers, is what I'm getting to.
Oh, yeah. I would be standing around the table, and there'd be, say, 3 or 4 other stunt guys. Yeah. And the dog's got to come across the table and take me backwards. And it was a real bite dog. The other stunt guys would be like, is this okay? Am I all right? It's hard to believe, but a lot of people are pussies getting bit by dogs.
They're pussies. I can't get, like I think I told you before, I can't find people to help me do bite work. To wear the sleeve, and I'm talking real sleeves. I'm not talking the fake underneath, stuff. I'm talking about the real sleeve. I can't get people to do it. And it's like I'll
do it for you in a heartbeat, man.
I'll train you how to take the hit. It's not it's no big deal. We're not doing sport. I'm just doing the thing. It's like people are scared, senseless about it. And I'm like, no, the dog's under control. I mean, it's like, and it's like the dog he sees the sleeve, he knows what he's doing. You know what I mean? And it's like,
but you know that, and I know that, but these other people apparently don't know that.
Well, they get scared, but they're scared. I mean, I can't believe how scared they go. I'm a tough guy. I'm a tough. Yet I know women in Holland who get in a whole suit and get 3 dogs on them. You know what I mean? And I'm like, you're tough. I'm like, you're so much tougher than the men I know. She's like, what? I said, yeah. You know how many guys I can't get to do any of this stuff?
You know, some people are love snakes and are afraid of spiders. I mean, you know.
Yeah, I know. But isn't it? You know what I'm saying? I mean, isn't that just, you know, like, don't talk to me that you're brave and shit when you're, you know, you're.
I don't think that's you know, getting bit by a dog is not it's not a scale on bravery. You know, so like there's people who could go out there and get shot at, you know, and to me that's brave. But they may not want to take a, you know.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like, you know, how is this, you know, you'll do that, but you won't do this. I know professional fighters, friends of mine, who won't do the sleeve. You know, I'm like, are you out of your mind? This is much safer than getting in the ring. You know what I mean? You know, I was like, yeah, that's.
I'd much rather take a bite from a dog than get hit by Mike Tyson. I can tell you.
Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying, you know, and it's like, that's my thing. It's like, this is lower on the grade. It's what, you know, I mean, I think it's fun, don't you? I mean, it's like, you know, it's kind of fun to put the.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if you've got a good dog that hits hard, then you can. Well, get acrobatic with them, and
Well, you can do the thing, and you can do the spin. You know what I mean? Well, they're horizontal and stuff. The Robert said he doesn't want to take any more hits with that, because I said, you know, so I don't know if I want to do that anymore. I said, but he was talking about the hidden sleeve, you know what I mean? The no sleeve or the burlap bag underneath. I said, no, I'm talking about the real made to be, you know, the real thing. Yeah. He goes, oh yeah, I might do that, because I was like, you know, come on, it's like 6 hours away. I'm like, you know, you don't have a dog. You can come up. You know what I mean? You can come up. Nobody is talking about movie dog trainers for pet, because the big business is pet dog people. And I'm like, absolutely. And I'm like, we can expose this, and that's the same thing. Why I'm chasing after you. One of the reasons is because, like, you know, you're sitting back there. Well, maybe I could play that tune. Maybe I could play dueling banjos. It's like, you know, that's a hard song. I put it out there, but you know, but I'm like, well, come on, Bryan, God damn it, you know, like, you know, get fired up and stuff. And plus, it's how you talk about it. I know, you know, everybody wants to be like low key. That doesn't work anymore, though. Nobody pays attention to people who are low key. Like, oh yeah, I did some, you know, because Robert's like, yeah, I did some movie work. I'm like, well, nobody's gonna listen to you, you know. And I started saying, like, you're the last of the legendary Lassie trainers. You actually trained last Lassies over there. Well, yeah. Well, why the hell are you saying it? You know what I mean? Because that reverberates. You know, I mean, that's just how it is. That's just how it is what I'm getting to. Like you're saying, it's changed. If you don't talk about yourself, no one else is going to. You know,
that's true.